Hello, it's Carrie here, and I'm so excited that you're joining me for this episode of the She Means Business show. So in this episode, I had an amazing chat with the incredible Racheal Cook. She is the founder of CEO Collective, and it's actually really interesting because we talk about her evolution in business, going from her first business and like how it's changed and how the changes have come about and how business needs to be flexible and we have to have the courage to listen to our audience and make changes when it feels right to do so. So there's so many good things she talked about in this conversation. But one of the things we're also diving into is like how you can actually create a 90-day plan for your business and some really amazing tips around setting the right types of goals so that you can actually get the results that you want. Really, how do we simplify everything so that we can actually create the success that we want? I'm so excited for you to listen to this, so enjoy. You are watching the She Means Business show with me, Carrie Green. I'm the founder of the Female Entrepreneur Association and the author of the best-selling book, She Means Business. And every single week, I'm going to be talking with you about how you can turn your ideas into a wildly successful business and actually live the life of your dreams. You can do this, and I'm so excited to show you how. So let's get started. I am so excited, everyone, to introduce you to the amazing Racheal Cook. Racheal, thank you so much for joining me. I'm so excited to chat with you.
I'm so excited to be back. This is one of many conversations that we have shared.
I know it has been a really long time, and you've obviously done some amazing classes inside of our membership. I know we were just talking about this before I hit record, but so for everyone listening, Racheal's done two amazing masterclasses. One's called Lead Your Business Like a CEO, and the other one is Live Your Dream Life Now. And they are so popular. We always refer people to the Lead Your Business Like a CEO masterclass just because it's just so helpful, the things you share. So I definitely want to talk more about the kind of the things you talk about in that class in this episode for everyone, like creating like your 90-day plan. And something that I always talk about that you shared in that was the difference. I can't remember what you actually call it, but like the difference between the types of goals we set, like goals that are check-offable, where we get to like be like, instead of being like, I'm going to get 1,000 or I'm going to make 10 sales this month, be like, I'm going to contact 100 people this month to try and get the sale. Because then you can check off, okay, I contacted 100 people. I just loved that concept so much in the class. But yeah, they're so good. I'm so grateful for them.
Well, I love them. And I love that anytime people have been taking those masterclasses inside of the members club, they then message me on Instagram and tell me how much it's helping them. And
so good.
It's so awesome. I love that.
So I guess for everyone listening, can we talk more about you first and your story, your journey, your entrepreneurial journey? I think it's always really nice to talk and hear stories. So could you just share an overview of a bit of your story with us?
Sure. And what's fun is you have seen all of the iterations of my business now, because when you and I first connected, it was when I was under my first brand, which was the Yogipreneur.
Yeah.
So I came out of the corporate consulting world and really hit very bad burnout, and was at the point where I applied for disability for 3 months to go on medical leave because I was just so burned out, so exhausted. I was having panic attacks. I was experiencing adrenal fatigue, which they did not know what that was in 2007, 2008. But I ended up on a yoga mat, and my teacher and I became really good friends. And during this time where I was trying to decide what the next steps for my life were going to look like, she was like, Rach, I know you have all this background. You have an MBA, you worked in consulting, and you don't really want to go back to that toxic work environment. But do you think you could help me with my yoga studio? And that turned into the Yogipreneur, where I was consulting yoga business owners, yoga studios, then spread into wellness centers and holistic healthcare centers, then spread into life coaches and relationship coaches and parenting coaches. So my business has evolved since then, from the Yogipreneur, which was the very first brand, to Racheal Cook. And now we have rebranded for the third time into the CEO Collective so I can help more women entrepreneurs to really promote themselves to CEO, lead like a CEO, and make a bigger impact in the world.
That's so cool. And I think it's really nice to hear how it evolves, because I think sometimes it's like we think we need to get started on like the perfect idea and the be all and end all, when really it's just this ongoing journey that's always changing, always adapting. And it's like, you know, a lot of people are like, I don't know what to choose for a name. I don't know what name, you know, it's like, just do something, because you can, it's not set in stone. You can change it. Did you find when you did change that it didn't really disrupt your business?
You know, it's interesting because each evolution for me has always come from listening to my clients and to my audience. And when I started as the Yogipreneur, first of all, starting as that brand in 2008, 2009 was the best thing ever, because it was such a clear niche. It was so clear who I was for, what I did. And that helped me get up and going very quickly, because at that time there were literally like 4 or 5 people specifically offering business support and business consulting to that industry. So that was amazing. When I changed, it was because I was getting all these emails from people saying, Rach, I'm not a yoga teacher, I'm a life coach. Rach, I'm not a yoga teacher, I'm a photographer. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. So my brand is now actually, instead of bringing me just the people I want, it's actually becoming something that's deflecting people who I can continue to help. So I just kept listening to them. I kept listening to my audience, and they kept telling me what they needed from me. So each evolution has come because my audience has told me, and my community and my clients have told me, I want to work with you, but am I actually able to? Are you right for me? And the brand had to start evolving in order to reflect who I could help.
That's so interesting. I think it's really interesting that you said when you started out and you were focused on yoga businesses, it really helped you because you weren't trying to be all things to all people, which I think is so often the trap that people find themselves in, wanting to help everyone or do things for every business and then feeling utterly confused at where to even begin. Whereas like what you saying, there was like 4 or 5, I think you said 4 or 5 businesses at that time, right then, that you could reach out and help. So it was just straightforward.
Well, and this is, if you think about it, like think about Amazon. Amazon started as just a marketplace for books. That was it. They started with one thing. Now they have a lot more, but they were able to really get that stake in the ground because they started with one thing and then added on.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that a lot of times we see the end result like 10 years down the road and say, oh, if I'm going to launch an Amazon, I have to start with all of these things. And it's like, no, you have to start narrow. You have to be defined to get going, and then you can add and layer more as you get going.
So true. I think that people often come to me because of membership site stuff and want help with their membership, and they always are wondering like how much content they need to get started. And I'm like, I literally started with one piece of content that was just like a guide and a workbook, and I had an idea of what the next month's content would be, but after that I didn't have a clue. And I think people see what I've created now and think they need to have something that is similar, and I'm like, no, like this is like 7 years of stuff. Like you do not need all this, just start and keep it simple.
Absolutely.
It's like that quote, don't compare your chapter 1 to someone else's chapter 20. We need to all remember that. So how did you then go from going, helping, it being rachealcook.com and helping lots of businesses to then now transitioning into the CEO Collective, which I love that name.
And again, it came from my audience. So anyone who's been in the members club and has taken the Lead Yourself Like a CEO masterclass, a lot of that content is content I've been teaching my clients for a long time. And what happened was I ran a challenge that was called Plan Your Best Year Ever. And it was one of those things that I was, we often discount things that come naturally to us, things that we do, practices we have. And we think, oh, everybody does this. Everybody does planning. And it wasn't until I realized, oh, most of my clients and community, they don't have a strategic plan. They've never sat down and planned their year out. They've never sat down and thought about how they structure their calendar through the year so they're consistently promoting something and consistently making sales and getting clients. So I ran this challenge called Plan Your Best Year Ever. And after the challenge was over and everybody had kind of a 12-month plan of what they wanted to do, they were like, Racheal, we need a workshop. We need something to like get even more detailed. So I hosted an event called the CEO Retreat in January of 2018. It was totally an experiment. I didn't know I thought it was going to be a one-time thing. And I found an amazing space here in Richmond, Virginia, put tickets for sale, and 55 women bought it and showed up to this event. And again, I didn't really know what to make of it because at the time it did not fit in with everything else I had going on. It seemed to me like, oh, this is a fun one-off. But then they asked for it again. Literally, we sit down at the CEO retreat and plan out your next 90 days, week by week, breaking down those action steps. And the next quarter, they were like, are you hosting another retreat? I need to do that again. And I was like, oh, this isn't just a one-time thing. We need to do this all the time. So the CEO retreat became something that it just started as an experiment. It was just something I put together. I wasn't sure where it fit in or what it was supposed to do, but it really turned into the next body of work for me. So we've been hosting quarterly CEO retreats now since January of 2018.
Wow.
Obviously now they're all virtual, but we were hosting them in person. And when I started hosting this, and just the fact that I called it the CEO retreat called in a different type of woman entrepreneur, someone who was tired of the, boss babe, girl boss, go girl type of talk out there. And while there's nothing wrong with those things, it can often feel like, especially for women who are in their 30s and 40s and 50s, who are primarily who I work with, they're like, hold on, I'm building a legit business. I want to build a very successful business and have a team and have employees and create jobs and make a bigger impact. So calling it the CEO retreat called in a whole different level of entrepreneur. And I was like, this is who I love working with because I love the startup stage. I love helping people with getting their businesses up and running. And I love that there are so many, especially like millennial women who are growing businesses and creating their own path. I think that is amazing. And that's what I spent my 20s doing, was designing something completely from scratch. But I was like, you know what? I really love working with this more established demographic who doesn't just want the lifestyle business. They really want to do something that is going to create the new version of work. Because for so many women for so long, especially here in the United States, like there is a significant drop off in the career path. If you become a mom, if you hit your mid 30s, you'll see women start dropping out of management very quickly. And it's not because we're not capable. We are incredibly capable. It's not because we're not educated. We are graduating college and getting master's and advanced degrees at higher rates than ever before. The challenge is the traditional environments were not designed for women. They were designed for men who have a stay-at-home wife. And so we are building the next generation of businesses that are going to make it more equitable for more women to create the careers that they want, whether it's their own business that they're creating the career path for, or creating careers for other women who will come up behind them and help them grow their businesses.
Yeah, that's so amazing. It's such a good thing to do. And I also really like your point about how this kind of comes into how important our messaging is, because what we say, it has such a huge impact on who we attract. And I just think it's so important that we can do a really good job with that, and we are, enjoying who we are attracting. I wanted to ask you though, because obviously you said that you decided to do the CEO retreat and it didn't quite fit in to your business at that time. And I think that so often people get kind of like these inspirational ideas or like inspired ideas, and then they don't act on them because they overthink it. They get stuck in their head with like, this doesn't fit in. I've been so guilty of doing this, I might add. So how, like, did you just decide I'm just going to go for it anyway? Like, what was that process? Because I just think it'd be good for people to hear.
Yeah, it totally didn't fit in with the whole, we're all taught, well, you have this smaller product and then it leads them to the medium product and then it gets them to the higher level mastermind. So it totally didn't fit in with anything. But what happened was I had about half the people who showed up were existing clients and half the people who showed up had never worked with me before. And what was interesting was watching the difference between people who had already been inside of my online courses and people who hadn't. The people who hadn't, a lot of them went on to buy my online course, but they treated it very differently. Instead of feeling like they had to sit down and go through the entire training, instead, because they had their plan, they were very carefully choosing the trainings they needed in order to achieve their goals for that quarter. And I was like, okay, this is fascinating. This is the difference between just in case education, where you're just learning for the sake of, I need to know everything first before I take any action, and just in time learning, where you're just picking and choosing exactly what you need at the moment you need it.
Yeah.
And the people who made that shift, who were using the trainings as just in time learning, were able to get the results faster because they weren't overwhelmed with content. They weren't overwhelmed with that information overload that I think so many people find themselves in. And instead, they were staying in that implementation mode. They were like, oh, I need to run Facebook ads for this promotion. Let me just get what I need to learn this particular thing and move on. And that shift was huge. So watching that, I was like, okay, then I could start to see how things were going to come together. I could start to see that I needed to reimagine what everything that I had created up until that point, how we could use it in a way that helped with that just-in-time learning versus just-in-case learning. And this is probably the biggest thing that, like, anyone who runs online courses, there is a huge industry for online courses right now, but there's also a huge incompletion rate in online courses. A lot of people don't finish them. And when they don't finish them, they feel like they didn't get the value out of it. And when they don't implement anything because they got stuck somewhere, it actually doesn't serve the client as well as it could. And me coming from a consulting background, I want the 100% completion rate. I want them to get the results. That's all I want. So I don't care if they finish the whole course or not, as long as they can get the result. So I really started reimagining, okay, if I take away what I have learned about the way the online course world works and shift from just-in-case learning to just-in-time learning, what would happen? So what we've done is basically I pulled all of my courses off the market.
Oh, wow.
You can only buy them now as part of becoming a member of the CEO Collective. And it's an annual membership. We decided it would be an annual membership because I know that it takes a while to get into the 90-day planning process. Mm-hmm. But now we've set up the entire CEO Collective membership so that when you come in, you are assigned a mastermind, you are assigned a mentor to actually support you in creating your 90-day plan and only using all of the trainings that I've created over the past decade as that just-in-time learning. So just when you need it, there's a training there for you to go and access to learn how to implement what you need to implement. But it was a complete process of reimagining, like, how do I do this and kind of throw away everything I thought I knew about how courses should work and instead focus on what am I seeing gets results for my clients the best.
Yeah. But I think that's so interesting and like so such a smart move, because I think like that is what it's about, isn't it? For all of us, looking at what is working for us, what's not working, and having the courage to actually listen to ourselves and listen to the data, I suppose, that we're seeing and make decisions based on that, rather than making decisions based on what like the industry's telling us or what people are telling us, which actually might not be valid for us. And I think so often people, I don't know, don't trust themselves enough to make those decisions. So it's really interesting and it's really inspiring. Hopefully people listening will be like, yeah, I'm going to start doing that more.
And it was crazy too, because I had the course I had, Sweet Spot Strategy. I had been running that course for 9 years.
Wow.
I had put thousands of people through that course, and the course is great. Like, it's still all the content. Again, it's inside of our new offer, which is the collective. And people were shocked. They were like, why are you taking down this course? It is running so well. It sells really well. And I was like, because I think in this new way of delivering everything, we will get better results.
Yeah.
And for me, that's what it had to come back to. What was my objective? My objective is to help people get the results they're looking for. And that meant making hard call and something that was very much going against the grain. Even saying that the collective is only available as an annual membership. That's kind of going against the grain with the whole membership style. A lot of people only do a monthly membership.
Yeah.
But I knew that for me to be focused on results, I needed a level of commitment from them and for us, because we bring in guest consultants. They do have a mentor. So there's a lot of resources going into them that I was like, if we don't have a level of commitment, I don't feel like the results will be there.
Yeah, that's so true.
So I had to make some calls that are very outside of the norm. And some people were very confused, but I'm used to doing things and having people be confused about what I'm doing. I just do it anyway.
Well, that's good. So can we talk more then a little bit about like the 90-day plan, like some of the stuff that you share and talk about, because it's so powerful and it's so helpful for people. So what are some of like the really big, I suppose, tips or ideas that you could share when it comes to actually planning out and the purpose of planning out as well? Like what is the purpose of it all?
Yeah, so 90 days is kind of a magical time frame because it's just long enough that you can complete a pretty big project, or you can make some great momentum on something, but it's short enough that you can adapt and pivot. And if we've learned anything in 2020, it's that the ability to be flexible is priceless. Like that is what will keep you in the game long term. So one of the challenges I would find with a lot of entrepreneurs who are doing like, let me plan my goals for this year. And there's so many, like the January of the year, everybody's talking about their big goals that they want to hit. They want to make $1 million in revenue or 6 figures in revenue, or they want to have 10,000 Instagram followers or something like that. But the problem is those goals end up on a piece of paper that is now tucked away in a notebook somewhere, or a sticky note on their computer screen. Like they just never look at it again. Yeah. And they never break down, how am I going to make this happen? So I tend to look at goals very differently. I look at goals from the standpoint of not just the result that I want, but what is within my control. So all of the goals I set are things that are check-offable for me, and they will lead to the ultimate result I want, which is the revenue or the clients or the followers. But they're all based on what do I have 100% control over. So when we sit down and do our 90-day plan, I am all about limiting how many things you're committing to, especially if you are a solo entrepreneur or you don't have a very big team who is implementing on your behalf. You have to like really limit your scope of what you're trying to focus on, or else you end up at the end of the quarter or at the end of the year going, wow, I didn't really make much progress, because you're trying to do too much. So we go about 90-day planning a little bit differently. We always start with our annual goals, and then we figure out, okay, what are the benchmarks for us to hit those annual goals? So a great example is my podcast, Promote Yourself to CEO. This is a huge part of my marketing strategy. It's how I nurture my audience. A lot of people find me through my podcast. And I know that as a goal, I need to focus on what is within my control. Well, what's within my control is putting my butt in the seat and pressing record. So I have a goal of having 52 new episodes every year. Well, if I break that down to quarterly, that means every quarter I need to have 13 episodes. So then with that goal, I can say, what is the system that will help me sit down and make sure I can record that every quarter? And I actually sit down and break it down, chunk it down to, okay, this month I need to record 4 episodes. What is our process for that? For me to brainstorm what they're going to be, outline the episodes, record the episodes, and then what does the team do to support me to edit them, produce them, put the music in. I don't know how any of that stuff works at this point, but they take it from there and make it happen. So all the 90-day planning is like that. It's all about breaking it down, chunking it down even more, making sure that I've got a process I can follow to check those things off the list, and then plugging it into my calendar so that I'm making time for it. So with the podcast example, every month, my process is, I'm not a great batcher. I know some people can batch like 12 episodes at once. I just can't. I'll lose my voice after a couple episodes. So I can only batch like 4 episodes at a time. That's kind of my max. But that means every month I will block off a day or two to brainstorm the episodes, outline the episodes, record the episodes, and then the team can take it from there. But I've got to break it down until it's actually in my calendar. Yeah. So that I can achieve that ultimate goal of having a weekly podcast.
And I think like when you break it down like that, it makes you know, at first when you think 52 episodes, it sounds overwhelming, but when you're like, actually, that's 13 a quarter, that's 4 a month, you're like, this is totally doable. And it goes from taking like this big project that feels overwhelming and making it actually doable. And I think that is such a huge part of the power of this process that you share, because then, yeah, it's check-offable, you know exactly what you're doing. You're not like, it's not like this goal that you have no control over, which I think that's what I really love about the way you teach this, because I think that's what people need, I feel like.
And even like if your goal is to get a certain number of clients, well, that's the result, that's the outcome of achieving the goal, right? Is to have, let's say, 10 clients. Well, you have to commit to how you're going to make that happen. And posting on social media is not a direct line to getting clients. So it becomes, okay, let's commit to how we're getting those clients. Maybe it means in order for me to get 10 clients this quarter, I need to ask 5 people for 5 referrals.
Yeah.
And once I get those referrals, what is the process I'm following? I'm reaching out to them. I'm booking them in my calendar. Let's say out of those 5 people, 5 referrals, 25, maybe 12 book a call with me. Okay. How many of them are converting to becoming a client? Maybe half of them become a client, maybe more, maybe less. You have to know your numbers on that one. But for me, it's all about, if you're setting the goal, you actually have to commit to the process that you're going to follow in order to get that outcome. Because if we don't, we end up doing like the throwing spaghetti at the wall and hoping the outcome, those clients will happen. And that's where I see people get stuck a lot, is they're like, I want to make sales for this course. And then they try to do so many different things because they haven't committed to a process that they want to follow in order to get that outcome.
Yeah, it's so true. My gosh. How about there's so many people listening right now being like, yes, that's me. I feel like we just get stuck there, don't we? Why do we overcomplicate everything? It's so funny. It's like, I like you talk about just uncomplicating business.
Yeah.
I just think it's the way it needs to be. Like, why? I don't know why we have this feeling that we need to be doing all the things, and why we just think that we have to just, make it hard work.
We really don't. Like, when it comes down to it, business is incredibly simple. You just have to make offers to people who need that offer. And I think where we complicate it is we see so many different ways to get the word out there about our business, and we try to do all of them. But when we try to do everything, we tend to do nothing particularly well.
Yeah.
But if you commit to one thing and then learn how to get good at it, and I promise, like, it takes time to get good at it.
Yeah.
If you, the very first podcast episodes I ever had, they were not that great. Like, I had to practice. And just, Carrie, you've done this too. Like, I bet if we were to go back in your YouTube history,
my gosh,
people would be like, oh, Carrie started with kind of a rough video too. Okay, we all have to start there. But it's that commitment to, this is the process I'm going to follow, and I'm actually going to give myself the time it will take in order to get really, really good at it.
Yeah. I always use the analogy of, like, if you were learning to play a musical instrument, firstly, you wouldn't start learning the piano, the guitar, and the violin all at the same time, because you would go insane. And then if you did, once you picked an instrument to learn, you would know that you're going to be pretty crap. You know, if you're going to learn the piano, you're going to sit down at the piano. If you've never played it before, you're not going to know how to play it. You literally are going to sit there and make an awful noise. But you know, if you go and get a teacher, or you go and get help, and you go and, I don't know, even look at lessons on YouTube, and you start to practice and practice and practice and practice every single day consistently, you know that in 3 months, 6 months, a year's time, you're going to be so much better. And it's like, I don't know how, it's just, for some reason, I feel like when it comes to like learning something like the piano or a language, we have that understanding that we know it's that journey. We know it's going to take time. But for some reason, when it comes to business, I think people have this fear that, or this feeling that they ought to be amazing right off the bat, and that they need to know everything and it be perfect. And I don't know, it's just, that's why I always bring it back to the analogy of learning an instrument, because I feel like then we can actually understand, oh, right, okay, then. Perfection
is the enemy of done. Perfectionism will keep you stuck forever in like this weird entrepreneurial limbo. And I talk about it, about people who get in this kind of entrepreneurial lab. They just want to sit there and tinker and play with stuff, but never actually get it out into the world. And it's like, no, you've got to do your crappy first draft. You have to like put it out there, because it's in the putting it out there that you actually get the feedback from other people. And that feedback is what will make the decision of whether you're on or off track.
Yeah.
Like with the CEO retreat, the very first one that I did, was it perfect? No. Did I overinvest in it? Not at all, because I knew this was my first time doing it. I'd never hosted an event like that. And I was just like, let's just see what happens. Well, what's the easiest, simplest way for me to get this out there and figure out if this is what people are interested in? And it was very, 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 very simple. We kept it as simple as we possibly could. And after I figured out, okay, yes, people will buy this. People will fly across the country to come to this event. Yes, now I will invest in things like branding. I didn't do any branding the first time. I did a Canva logo. I kept it as simple as possible. I invested in having a designer make the workbooks. The ones we did the first time, I made on like Google Docs, and then everybody had a Google Doc version. Like we kept it as simple as possible so that we could get it out there and see if people were actually interested and if this was going to stick. Yeah. And then you can make it better. Then you invest in it more. Yeah. And you have then now like that practice run of what it's going to look like. Yeah. But you have to get it out there. You can't just wait for it to magically be perfect, or else you end up spending over investing time and energy and money into something that may or may not work. Yeah. So true. So true. I just love everything that you said. And I think that it's a game changer when you start thinking like that and you just want to just put the minimum viable product, idea, service out there just to test and see. So it's definitely the way to do it. I also wanted to ask you about, because I know you've, over the time, like when I think we was like in Live Your Dream Life Now masterclass, you were talking about like the amount of time that you spend actually working in your business. Do you still spend I think that I read it was like 25 hours or a week. Do you still? That is still what I spend. And in fact, with all that has been going on in the world, I'm actually recording this now from my first office that is not in my house. I went out and got an office space this year. Oh, wow. But my kids are older now and they're 10, and 7. Oh. So it was getting very, very loud in our home with everybody home. And at this point, we don't know what the fall or what school is going to look like. But yeah, the 25-hour work week I really find is like a magical number for me. I mean, all the research points towards we only have about 4 or 5 hours a day of really focused, productive time. And I find that if I can set up my environment and set up my space so that I can have that focused time, then I can get the work done that I need done in 4 to 5 hours a day and can go home. I mean, I showed up today at 10 o'clock to have this call with you, and I'll be home by 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and I'll be able to go to the pool or, hang out with my kids and actually love my life and not just feel like I'm trying to do all the things at all the same time. Yeah, that's so nice. I think it's so good to be intentional about like the way we want to live our lives and not just wait till, I don't know. I mean, I know we go through phases of being really, really busy and having to work a lot, and then other phases which are maybe quieter. But I think trying to get to a place where we can be more intentional about how we want our life and business to look like and how we want it to be, just so that we don't get stuck in the idea that we started our own business to create more freedom in this dream life, and then we actually don't have that at all because we're just working so hard all the time and actually not spending more time with our family or not doing the things we want because we're just so stuck in our businesses, which is where so many people end up, really. Absolutely. And I think another thing that happens is as your business grows, what I find is the things that start to take up more time are like when you start hiring and you have a team, and suddenly your role has shifted. And where I found myself kind of overworking and getting frustrated was when I had been bringing on these people on the team, but I hadn't really redefined what my role needed to look like. Yeah. And so I kept getting in their way and I had to empower them, one, to say, hey, Rach, I've got it. You don't have to worry about this. So I wasn't like always trying to get in their way, like getting in the inbox when I'm not supposed to be, or saying, oh, I'll design this thing when I really don't need to. I had to empower my team to say, no, we've got it. You don't need to worry about this. And I needed to redefine my role. and really sit down and write myself a job description.
Yeah.
And this is something I recommend for anybody, even when you hire your very first like virtual assistant or somebody just doing a few hours a week of work for you. You have to let them do their job and get out of their way. Otherwise, you will spend all of your time managing and micromanaging what everybody is doing.
Yeah.
So when I sat down to write my new job description, I was like, what is the highest and best value for me now as the CEO with this bigger team supporting me? And it was like, okay, what are my CEO tasks? Strategy, big picture vision, setting the goals, hiring people. But I don't even manage the people. I had to get out of my own way and say I needed someone, an integrator on the team to manage everybody because it's not my best skill set. I need someone to do that. And then I was like, you know what? The things that drive the business are me showing up and doing conversations like this. So connecting with other entrepreneurs and creating content with them and connecting with our clients and really being able to come in and provide value to our clients. That is all I need to do.
Yeah.
And once I gave myself that new job description, I literally wrote it out just like any other job description in my business. One, now my team knows when to protect me from myself and from overstepping the boundaries there. But two, it helps me remember that when I want to sit here and overwork, which I often do, I'm like, is this the highest and best use of my time? Because sometimes you get down those rabbit holes and you need to pull yourself back out. And that helps me protect my time a lot because I'm like, okay, I'm actually doing the things that are the value driven things to move the business forward. I don't need to get stuck in all this other stuff. I can stay in my lane in the business. The business will continue to grow. The team will continue to move forward. And I get to go home and hang out with my kids.
Yeah. That's so nice. It's good. I like the idea of like creating your own job description. I think it's so important. Like I definitely went down the rabbit hole the past couple of years with team stuff, and it can just run over if you're not careful. Like,
yeah,
especially when you're employing full-time people, and it's like it's such a responsibility. I found to, when you're their sole income. And it's a lot, and I found it quite a lot of pressure to, I don't know, and then it becomes really different because then you've got like reviews and formal processes, and it's a different world. It's so different.
It is, and it can become all consuming to the point where you're spending all your time managing a team instead of charting the course, instead of making the big opportunities happen.
That's where I got stuck for a while. It took a lot to pull myself out of it. It's it's so interesting, the different phases of business and
it's stuff that you would never imagine when you're starting.
No. Sometimes I feel like I miss those days where it was just simple. It was just me and I was just being creative and just trying random stuff and doing all that, and then it's like turned into a beast. But I think it's like not a beast. It's only a beast if you let it become a beast. And it's like what you said, it's like getting intentional about what your own role is. So you stop doing things that you don't need to be doing, and you just are strategic about how you actually keep it the dream business and how you can keep making an impact and creating success and showing up to do things that are valuable rather than wasting your time doing things you really shouldn't be doing. So
that you've always got to come back to what is your intention right now? Yeah. What is the purpose? What is the mission? Because it's really easy for the dream business to become a nightmare. Yeah. I mean, really, really easy for you to get overwhelmed, overworked, and not happy with anything that you're doing. And that's where I see a lot of people, they actually start like blowing up their business.
Yeah. They're seen just it like so many times. I felt like blowing up my business on more than one occasion.
Yeah. And it's like, you don't want to work so hard to build something so incredible only to hate everything that you're doing. So you really have to come back to like, how do I want to show up? What is my highest and best value? What is the work I love? What is the work that is in my wheelhouse, that it truly is my zone of genius? And let go of the other stuff. Yeah. That's where you'll find the freedom again.
Yeah. So true. So true. Like I've made some really hard decisions over the past year, like even things of just having to get rid of or, removing like the team members where it wasn't working out, and being honest with myself about like, where is this going and what do I want this to be? And what does what are my intentions for this business. And I think it's sometimes like hard to make those really honest decisions, where sometimes you feel like you have to take a few steps back in order to then course correct and move forward properly. But I think that's part of, like, obviously being an entrepreneur. It is not easy. Like, there's so many twists and turns, there's so much uncertainty, but it's such an amazing adventure. And I think it's amazing to think of what's possible and what we can create. And that's what really keeps me so excited about the journey of it all and the ups and downs of it all. It's
absolutely. I mean, it's fun. This is the game of entrepreneurship is fun.
Yeah, it is. And it's a game. It so is a game. We have to get good at playing it.
Well, that's it. It comes back to that practice, right? Like you have to learn the rules. You have to learn how it works. But once you figure that out and you figure out the way that you're going to play this game, it becomes fun. You get excited about doing the work that you're doing and seeing what you create. Like nothing makes me happier than seeing like my team able to take a week of vacation and hang out with their family, knowing that, wow, they have been able to create this flexible life because of this business that I've created.
Yeah, that's so awesome.
Knowing right now, especially, like everyone on my team is working moms, knowing that they're not having to make this decision with COVID happening around the world. Like none of them are having to make the decision between, do I go back to work or do I stay home with my kids?
Yeah.
They've never been put in, it's just about how do we make this work now that we're at home all the time. Yeah. And we can be flexible and we can create that new way of working that the rest of the world is really struggling with right now.
Yeah, I know. I feel so fortunate that I run an online business right now and that the people on the team we can all work from wherever. We actually got an office this year too. We spent like months renovating and it's absolutely amazing. We were in for 2 weeks and then lockdown happened. And I was like, is this a sign? but it is so good. And I think it makes me feel grateful that for the business that we run and that the fact that we've been able to be flexible and it really hasn't impacted the team, at all in terms of like what it means for them. And now we're starting to work a little bit more from the office again, which has been nice. I'm excited to get back in there and work from there. It's just so nice to have that dedicated workspace, especially with my Casey. He's like, well, he's 20 months at the moment, but like, my gosh, he just wants to smack everything on like a hard surface. And like, Kellen's actually taking him out for a walk right now. When he knows when I'm doing like podcasts and conversations and live stuff, that he'll take him out because he makes such a racket. And then he's shouting up the stairs, "Mama, Mama, Mama," all the time. It's so distracting.
I know that well. And that's the biggest reason having an office space right now is such an amazing thing, because those kids are loud and I've got 3 of them and they are 100% on all the time. I don't know how I created 3 extroverts, but I did.
But it is good though that we have businesses and we can be flexible with what we do. Yeah. So it's all fun. It's all good. I could sit and talk to you all day, and I've just absolutely loved what you've shared and talked about. It's so helpful, and I just think that you just simplify things so much and make things feel doable. And it's amazing as well to listen to your story and like how it has evolved, because I hope it helps people to realize that this is one big journey and it's not about knowing it all or knowing every little thing about you don't know how it's going to evolve. You just have to be listening and paying attention and then having the courage to like make the changes and take the action when you need to. So it's been really inspiring listening to you talk. So thank you.
Well, thanks for having me.
I was going to say, where's the best place for people to hang out with you and to find out more about you?
I mean, you can check out my podcast, Promote Yourself to CEO, and lots of content over there over the last few years. And also come connect with me at rachealcook.com, where you will find a lot of resources right there on the homepage about how we approach promoting yourself to CEO, planning, and making sure that you are focused on the highest impact activities in your business.
And that's really cool. I'll put all the links as well in the show notes. If you're listening to this over on iTunes, then head over to femaleentrepreneurassociation.com/Racheal Cook for all of the links. And it's Racheal, Racheal.
Yes.
That's how you spell Racheal. So definitely go and check out all that and all the links, because Racheal's got so much amazing stuff going on. And if you are in a members club, then definitely, if you haven't done the Lead Your Business like a CEO masterclass or the Live Your Dream Life Now class, definitely go and do them. They're so good, so powerful. So yeah, go get stuck in with that, and then tag Racheal on Instagram so she knows you've gone through it.
Yes, for sure.
But thank you so much. It's been so lovely. I really appreciate it. Like I said, I could sit here and chat about this all day. So thank you. And I really hope you've all enjoyed listening. If you have, definitely let me know. Leave a comment. Let me know what your biggest takeaway has been. And I will see you next week for another episode of the She Means Business Show. Bye, everyone. I hope you loved this week's episode of the She Means Business Show. If you want more help and support to build a wildly successful business, then join hundreds of thousands of women and become an FEA insider. You'll get access to some of our amazing freebies, to our bonuses, to our giveaways, to so much good stuff. Head over to femaleentrepreneurassociation.com/insider to get all of the goodness. And I will see you next week for another episode of the She Means Business Show.